I call this meeting to order.
Well done.
All right, it's time for roll call. Roy Carter,
Here.
Bruce Sanders,
Here?
Jeff Sispersky,
Here.
Samuel Rice, not here. Lisa McLaughlin, here. Billy Barrick.
Here.
Wonderful. All right, and then we have Glenn. All right, thank you very much. So, at this time, our first item on the agenda is going to be our introduction of our newest member, Billy Barrick. I'm hoping you could just take a minute to introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like to bring to the EDA.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us today. I've worked for Bureau for the past 32 years. My wife and I reside in Alfonso. We have 2 children, Will and Whitney. I look forward to working with you folks. I look forward to being able to help and insight I can be from our cultural side of the industry. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at this time, we're going to move forward with the rest of the agenda. We have both Ann Paparella and Sharon Phillips here to present on behalf of the town of Kilmarnock and Lancaster County of Chamber of Commerce.
Join me. This is where
Yes.
we are.
Yep.
Do we have to swear him in or anything?
I know, right?
You should.
I am, promise.
Let's start some hazing together.
Well, thank you for having us here. Thank you for, we'd love to connect with you guys more. I've talked to Roy several times about how, and Taryn, how we can partner with the EDA to, elevate the whole community. I'll give you a brief overview of what's going on with the chamber. We currently have 300 members. It varies between 299 and 303, so it kind of goes back and forth. We've added 16 new members from January, so that's hugely significant to me because it says the chamber is relevant in our community. This year we've celebrated Margaret Nose from the River Counties Community Foundation as Business Person of the Year, and William Smith from Blue Ridge Bank as our Chamber Volunteer of the Year at our annual dinner, which was attended by 150 people at Indian Creek Yacht and Country Club. This event has been really important to the community because it really does gain a lot of, I don't know what the word is, accolades for that we recognize community, and people want to expand it to Business of the Year. So we have some opportunity there to expand this event. We hosted a workshop that is for the community to empower the community members to be immediate responders in case there's an active shooter. That was, and other emergencies. That was attended by 70 people in the community, and including the newspaper. So I don't know if you read the newspaper article about it, but it was an amazing event. Just to bring awareness. We hope nothing happens like this, but the more people that know what to do, the better. We put together the Best of Virginia list for the Virginia Living magazine. So the chamber takes out a 2-page ad in the Virginia Living magazine, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this magazine. This was last year's, so it highlights the area with businesses. This year we have a beautiful image of the Chesapeake Bay, Rappahannock River with a sailboat on it. It's stunning, so you'll see that very soon. We will host our annual Chamber Golf Classic in Indian Creek, at Golden Eagle Golf Course on May 12th. No more room, that is sold out for foursomes, but we do have an opportunity for whole sponsors. Just a little plug for that. We're partnering with the Boys and Girls Club and Walmart to host a job fair on May 26th at the Boys and Girls Club from 5 to 7. More information will be coming out about that. I'm on a small panel of community leaders working with Walmart and to see if they can engage in the community in a little better way. So instead of Walmart being this entity that is just there, they want to plug into the community to find out how they can help with the nonprofits, be more visible. So that to me is very exciting because we've been asking Walmart to join the chamber for about, 8 years? And so finally they want to engage with the community. We're currently in the final stages of our chamber guide and directory, so that's a magazine we put out that you might recognize that kind of highlights the area of businesses. It does highlight the area of businesses, but also is a little more than that. It's more of a tourist guide. So that's coming out hopefully at the end of May. That's the plan. We can go We put out a newsletter every month that highlights local business happenings as well as chamber happenings, and that goes out to 400 members, and it has about a 45–50% open rate. So that's really, I think, great. We have started resuming our after hours. So we had our first one at Dredge, we had one at Steamboat Air Museum, and the next one's at Ditchley Cider. This brings about 50 to 100 people. And so at the end of the day, businesses networking with each other is how we grow this community. At the end of the day, people want to do business with people they know and can talk to, and it's very personal. We will host Candy for Kids in October, Taste by the Bay in November, and the Kilmarnock Lighted Christmas Parade in December. And again, we're excited to partner with Chesapeake Bank on their Boost Local Business event that's going to go on in November and December. Do you have any questions? Did I talk too fast?
How about,
And I'm running a race on Saturday, and I'm practicing.
clearly, how about we have Sharon speak, and then we'll take joint questions for you guys.
Good morning, I'm not running a race on Saturday. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Phillips. I am with the town of Kilmarnock, Economic Development. Again, just kind of sharing some of the things that we are working on together. As many of you know, we just concluded the Kilmarnock Refresh Grant, which was a use of ARPA funds. And there were 35 plus businesses that were awarded up to $2,500 in grant. It was a matching grant, and if they had $5,000 worth of work, they received $2,500 back in a grant. That produced, the town council approved upwards of $78,000 in grant award money, and that produced over $200,000 worth of private investment in Main Street and just beyond. It was an amazing grant. Everyone is very excited about the fresh new face that Main Street has. Some of the tourism-based things that we're currently working on, we produce a program called Fall into Kilmarnock, and there are events that occur in the month of October. Then we kind of transition to Christmas on Main. One of the new programs we've offered is Restaurant Week, which occurs the last week of January. And the reason that that one is so important is our restaurants, as we know, kind of struggle in the non-tourism months. But with the tides in, switching their business model to being open year-round, I think that we will see a leveling, if you will, of tourism dollars in those shoulder months. Quite a bit of energy is going into building and enhancing businesses in the shoulder months. And shoulder months are referred to as December through March, if you will. We are, as you have seen on Main Street, we have new banners, and that program is called Spring into Kilmarnock. And one of the programs under Spring into Kilmarnock is an art show referred to as Artfully Crafted on Main. It is not our first art show, but the first art show in quite some time. So that is scheduled for Saturday, April the 30th. I think you'll see we have several things going on in town on that day. Then in the early summer months, we transitioned to Hometown Heroes. That is just a mainstay. It's been a very, very popular program. And then, of course, the Music on the Half Shell concert series, which is just a beautiful partnership between the Chamber and our other business partners in the community. The town of Kilmarnock partners with the Lancaster Chamber by the Bay to bring legacy events such as the Kilmarnock Lighted Christmas Parade and what was once referred to as Kilmarnock Candy for Kids. That, of course, will be rebranded. And again, just the partnerships that go into bringing those events into place is what we do. We do that very nicely. Again, between the Chamber and Economic Development, we simply work to build partnerships in our community to enhance, grow, and retain the businesses that choose to call Kilmarnock home, and to acquire new businesses by positioning Kilmarnock and Lancaster County as the place for new businesses. When it comes to what types of businesses we are looking for, what types of businesses would call Lancaster County, Kilmarnock, Irvington, and Whitestone home, we generally are looking for businesses that hire between 10 and 15 employees. Most of the businesses on Main Street will hire between 1 and 3. So to bring in a business that hires 10 or 15, that will help us produce the age group that we are desperately lacking, the 20 to 55-year-old group, bringing the affordable housing, children into our wonderful school system. So that kind of rounds out some of the things that we're doing. Did you have some questions as far as what we're working to achieve?
I think absolutely. I know I have questions, but I want to open it up to the rest of the group first.
I want to say, Sharon, because I think Main Street looks so nice now.
Thank you.
That program really just freshened up all the way down. Looks really nice.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I had a question. Hi. So are the member businesses, I think you said you had about 300 members, are they from all over Lancaster?
Yeah, so they are. yeah.
Anyone can join
Yeah,
within
yeah,
the
it's
Lancaster bounds?
Yeah, it's really, the three towns, the three primary towns, Irvington, Kilmarnock, and Whitestone, but we have, new chamber members that have just come in, Deborah Edgar, real estate, and she's right across from the high school. Of course, the school system chamber member. So it's really anybody in the, and we have Middlesex and some Northumberland businesses.
Oh,
also.
okay, awesome.
One thing that's very interesting there is the chamber houses, or is a membership organization, currently with a roster of 300 plus businesses, which is incredible. The town of Kilmarnock houses 80% of the businesses in the county. So
Wow.
it's just a very, very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
What does it cost for a business to be a member of the chamber?
Okay, so it's a tiered membership. So the first level, 1 to 5, based on full-time employees, 1 to 5 full-time employees is $125 a year. We have never raised the rate since I've been the chamber director. And we waived some membership fees during COVID because we didn't want to lose people because they couldn't pay. The next tier is $275, and it's 6 to 11 full-time employees. And the next tier is, I might get this wrong, 12 to 25, and that is $550. And then we have enhanced members. So the chamber is, when it originally started, as I understand, because I didn't originally start the chamber, the community felt it was important. So several businesses came behind the idea of a chamber with what's called an enhanced membership. So they pay a lot more per year. Chesapeake Bank is the top level enhanced member, Town of Kilmarnock top level, TriStar Supermarket, Blue Ridge Bank, Northern Neck Insurance, Two Rivers Communication, NWP, and more businesses are coming on as enhanced members. So these are businesses that really do support the chamber in a big way because they believe that what we're doing is important.
Excellent.
So there's 3 basic levels and then there's 3 enhanced levels.
Good. I'm glad the smaller level is $25 because I can't.
125.
Oh, 125. 125.
But when
Because-
it's $10 a month.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you
And,
go to after hours, you'll get that much in food.
I know, right? We don't charge for the after hours.
Yeah.
We're free to attend.
Wow. And Sharon, what's the status of the Starbucks? We'd heard.
Let's get right down to it.
This is an 8:30 meeting. We're
It's
coffee
my
on the way.
understanding that those plans have been moved forward to VDOT.
Okay.
And beyond that, they are with VDOT.
Okay. So they're still in the works to.
It is,
Plant
I
here.
have no reason to believe that they are not still in the works.
Okay. Good.
I asked for an update on that last week, and again, with VDOT.
Wonderful.
And I would just say too, we would love to have a representative of the EDA come to our monthly board meetings and report on what's going on, and I think that's how we can create some synergy and awareness. We have on our agenda regularly an opportunity for each business community to present what's going on in their community, and, so we have persons from each entity there, so they can say, okay, in Irvington, this is what's happening, and Kilmarnock, this is what's happening, so we know what's going on in the lower end of the county pretty much reported to us. So, and our meetings are every month, the second Tuesday of the month.
Do you still have a Zoom option available?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Perfect. I am remiss in attending.
Yeah, so Zoom is a great way to attend, and I always post that, I post that on our website.
Perfect. All right. That is a perfect segue for what I was going to ask. Are there ways that we could start to work together more? I think you've just given us a great idea, but
sure.
how could the county support you guys more? And how can we start to work on our communication?
Well, I will tell you, we use Club used to be on our board, and it was great because he always, obviously knew what was going on in the county and could report. We've always had a, governmental element, which said, what's going on in the county government. So we'd love to reintroduce that. I also brought a schedule of our meetings, so if you guys want them. Irvington is, Whitestone is not. But we have lots of Whitestone businesses and they're always reporting what's going on in Whitestone. So yeah, love to have you guys.
Sharon, did you want to add anything?
So I do, I think that one of the, Virginia's River Realm is a social media platform that I think kind of brings all three towns in the county and Middlesex kind of under one umbrella. And that is a vehicle that we use to promote tourism. And it benefits, as the saying goes, the high tide floats all boats. And so that is just one of the most powerful vehicles that we have to continue to drive fresh new faces and those tourism dollars here. And the benefit of that is seen right here, whether it's in Irvington, whether it's in Whitestone, whether it's in Lively or Saluda, Middlesex. Again, Virginia's River Realm is kind of, I feel kind of very much that unifying force.
Does anybody else have any questions?
How do we get a newsletter?
I'll put you on our newsletter list. I'll be happy to do that. I actually added you to our
email.
chamber. I gave you a chamber membership, basically, so that we could keep you in the loop of what's going on.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I think under new business, I would love to discuss making sure we have monthly representation at the chamber meeting. I know it is my intent to start going monthly, but I want to just make sure that somebody from the EDA is there, so.
Yeah, that would be great. And like I said, I have copies of our schedule. They just
Thank
have
you
all the after
very
hours, not the dates of all the after hours, because I don't have them, but.
Thank you very much.
We work really closely with Kilmarnock. Susan and Sharon are really integral to what we do at the chamber because there's so many businesses on Main Street and so many events on Main Street. So, I couldn't do my job without the town of Kilmarnock.
Fantastic.
They could probably do without me, but.
I don't think so.
I think that the diversity or the distinction between the two is how the businesses are represented.
Right.
And how the chamber helps them versus how the town can help them. And they are two very different skill sets.
Right.
And it just benefits the businesses tremendously.
Our mission statement is support and enhance local businesses. Promote economic activities that support and enhance local businesses.
So this looks like an awesome list. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
What?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
I was
Just keep talking.
I was wondering, do you guys ever do roundtables with like speakers who are focused on small business? Is that integrated into some of these?
We actually will host any opportunity that someone brings to us. If someone says, I've got this idea for a business seminar, we did a few years back, maybe even 5 years ago, a whole social media workshop, how to enhance your social
like
media
that.
presence. Really well attended. We partnered with the community college in Kilmarnock. It was great. It was wonderful. So, basically, if someone brings me an idea, I'm pretty much a one-person operation.
Yeah.
I have now one part-time employee, so who works 10 hours a week. So I love that. We're in the public library, so we have access to wonderful conference spaces with wonderful computers, smart boards and screens, so that we can, have a meeting and Zoom a meeting. Basically, if anyone brings an idea and says, I'd love to have this workshop, we're like, let's do it.
Yeah, I was just thinking it might be a great series, even if it's not, maybe it's, 6 times a year or something.
Right.
And the other idea I had for you guys was almost like an incubator roundtable where it's like just a place to come and for business people or potential entrepreneurs, people who are thinking about starting a business. Yeah, young people or just like where can we bounce ideas around and see who might have something that would support that idea.
Yes.
And that's where I think about EDA and, I meet a lot of business owners who I say, did you know we have this funding? And they're like, no. So, another place that we could also say, here's some funding sources that are available.
Yes.
But I find that roundtables, in my previous experience, it's just sort of a nice entry to some of the action steps of starting a business where it's like, let me see if this is a good idea and if other people want to support this before I go.
Weren't you speaking to doing that later this year, Sharon?
So one of the things that, again, this is just a throw an idea out there and see
See if it sticks?
See what sticks. I would very much like to take that idea of seminars and educational opportunities further, but more importantly, in an effort to capture one of the Lancaster 2035 actions or goals or strategies, is to potentially bring in a youth
Yeah.
entrepreneur program,
That's a great
where we
idea.
are capturing those creative young adults and providing them with the resources and tools that they need at that emerging stage, if you will. Again, can we create that local spot where they can go in at a reduced cost or however cost share
Right.
opportunity, whether it's access to technology or whether it's simply a space that they need to sell the product that they make. Again, well, I think that's one of the things that makes Lancaster County and the three towns in it so unique, is the level of entrepreneurs that we have.
Yeah.
I want to ask about that, but before I move back to something else, what is the age group that, when you say youth, what's the demographic you're isolated to?
I don't know that it's limited.
Okay,
I look at how other jurisdictions are handling it, and it could be, I've seen children as young as 10.
okay.
Like, again, it just depends on what it is that they have to share with the world.
I would love to talk more about that
Yeah.
idea.
I like that idea a
I've
lot.
got some ideas on that.
I do too.
There's some programs that I think already exist that you guys could
Yes.
plug into. Then I think my next question was going back, and has the Small Business Development Center from, I guess, Warsaw or Fredericksburg, part of that Mary Washington group, ever reached out to share their education with you?
They send me emails about what they're doing.
Okay. I know in the past, they have the same kind of mentality you have. If you have an idea, bring it to us and we'll try to put it
Right.
on. But I think their challenge has always been, and you might have had the same challenge, getting people to actually show up.
Right.
So I think, I'm just wondering what synergies exist there, and if
I would say my two biggest worries are, will they come? And
Yeah.
will they find it useful?
Sure.
That's
doubt-
that's what keeps me
Sure.
up at night.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think hopefully we can continue this discussion and see how we can further
I would
support you
also
on that.
say that if money isn't, a worry for chamber members, I have some non-paying members also, because I don't want to exclude, like, some nonprofits
Sure.
that just absolutely don't have it in their budget, and rather than say no, we say yes. I mean, there's room for, those, and I can think of two off the top of my head that have just said, we can't really afford it, it's not in our budget. I'm like, well, join, and then if you, at some point you think it is in your budget, pay.
Sure.
So we don't want to exclude anybody from being a chamber member.
I have a counterpart in Georgia who's actually she's doing Main Street America is the group she runs, and they are actually taking advantage of the local expertise, and they're having community members put on the education sessions and then filming them, so they're available as an ad hoc viewing. So maybe there's some additional ideas we can do
Right.
there.
We actually have a YouTube channel that we've never used.
A repository of
Right.
educational opportunities, and so education hits them when they have a moment, rather than having to attend a specific seminar.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's, unless does anybody else have any more questions? Out of respect for Paula and her time, I guess
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next agenda item.
Come on down.
Thank you all.
ladies.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
ladies. All right, folks, we have Paula Milstead with Chesapeake Bank here to speak to a campaign that is being incubated right now with the Chamber of Commerce, Chesapeake Bank, and the town of Kilmarnock.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Yes, today I want to present this idea. It's boosting local business during the holiday season. I want to answer any questions you might have about the program and get your feedback about it, and then ultimately figure out how we ask you for money. So, so just so you know what's on the docket for today. Last fall, we launched the Boost Local Business campaign in all of our markets. The goal of the campaign was to drive traffic to the local businesses and a local business directory that we have called the Buck Stays Here. And it's a completely free directory. Don't have to be a customer. Anyone can sign up. We're just trying to promote local business in every market that we have. And then ultimately, we wanted to drive traffic to the businesses to shop locally that holiday season. Each market had a different program. But the most successful was the Greater Williamsburg market. And what we did, ultimately, we infused $50,000 into the local business economy in Greater Williamsburg. Through the efforts of Chesapeake Bank, the Greater Williamsburg Chamber of Commerce, the Yorktown, City of Williamsburg, and James City County EDAs, and the Tide radio station. So those were the partners in the program. How we did it, we set up 5 Boost pop-ups throughout all the localities of Greater Williamsburg. And during the months of November and December, we sold $50 gift cards to the consumers for $25. And we drove those consumers to local businesses, the local business directory, to spend that money. Excuse me. It gave the shoppers a boost in their holiday spending. I'm in marketing, so bear with the marketing slang. And consumers were encouraged to visit the Buck Stays Here to find their local businesses, but we also had some businesses provide coupons at the events, so it was really interesting how that turned out in the numbers at the end. It was a big success. We had, as of March 1st, we were able to analyze the data and where the cards were being spent. So 61% of the cards as of March 1st had been redeemed. 92% of those were spent at physical locations. Only 8% were spent online. So it was working. They were spending it in the communities. So that was a big win on our side. And we'd love to bring the same promotion to Lancaster County for the upcoming holiday season. So we're getting in front of you all. I've already spoken with Sharon and Ann. Love to speak with the Whitestone Business Association and the Irvington Business Association. Make sure all the people that support local business are involved in the campaign. And so Chesapeake Bank is committing all the marketing dollars to this campaign, plus $5,000 for the purchase of the gift cards. So I would love to be able to say in Lancaster County, we can infuse $20,000 into the local economy this holiday season through this program. So we need to raise $10,000 to be able to do that. And I'd love to do more. If we get more, let's do more. But we need $10,000 because half of the gift cards are going to be paid for by the consumer who buys the gift card. Everybody always asks me how you do the math. So putting that out there. So we're asking the chamber, the town of Kilmarnock, Whitestone, Irvington Business Association, and all of you if you would contribute to this program. And we'd love to get $5,000 from the EDA to help with this program. So that concludes my presentation. What feedback or questions do you all have? Yes.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I think it's a great idea. And I clearly, because it's on the agenda. But I'm wondering what kind of representation in terms of the different industries occurred in Williamsburg. If it was mostly, as you've mentioned, it was mostly brick and mortar, but was it retail? Was there any kind of distribution?
Yes, it was mostly retail.
Okay.
It was interesting. 20% of the gift cards were actually used at local restaurants.
Okay.
So that was an interesting find for us. I think that had to do with a lot of the coupons were from local restaurants. And so one of the ideas, we haven't completely built out how we involve the merchants, but one of the ideas is to let the merchants provide a coupon so that when we give the person the gift card, they have those incentives to shop at those businesses.
Okay.
Oh, Williamsburg doing it again? Or is
Yes,
it-
Williams, oh, yeah. So let me explain that. Terry Benez is the director of the Greater Williamsburg Chamber of Commerce, and she has already pitched again to all the EDAs and has asked for money. So far, everyone is going to do that, and we are going to stand that up in Williamsburg again this fall.
Fantastic. Are there any limitations as to who can participate in terms of the county distribution, types of business, anything like that?
Participate in,
It being one of the businesses that would be able to accept the gift cards.
oh no, they're Visa gift cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Well,
Yeah, so the challenge is to drive those people to use them locally. We have explored other options to only be able to use them at local shops. The logistics of that is just atrocious. And so we've decided that we'll put the marketing behind it to encourage folks to use them locally, so.
Got it. Is there anything on the actual physical card that kind of reminds them?
When we give them the card, we put them in an envelope that is branded with the Boost
that's
campaign. It has all the program sponsors, so if the EDA participates, a program sponsored by, and it will have all their logos on there. And then we plan to put, should we do the coupons, we plan to put those coupons in the envelope as well.
Okay.
So that they'll have that package right there with them when they get all of that.
Perfect, perfect. Just thinking about like maybe a sticker that said Lancaster County on the card, something.
Right, right. And we can do that. We
Okay.
can do stickers too. Mhm.
Awesome. All right. I think Lisa, you also had a question.
I think you answered it.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot what it was.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions for Paula?
I think it's a great value-added approach that EDA should support. I think it's one of those things we look to, if we put a dollar out there, we'd like to see like have it multiply rather
Yeah.
than
Right.
just support. So I think this is one of those opportunities.
Well said,
I
Bruce.
told Paul, nothing's more discouraging to me than when I pull up at the dump to do the recycle for the cardboard, and you're looking at it, and all the Amazon boxes are sitting there smiling at you. You go like, that's just money that's leaving the county.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a great way to show the partnerships of our community coming together and supporting local business. I think it's great for the businesses and the consumers, so
Yeah.
that was
As a-
the other thing that we got, the goodwill that we got out of it.
I have to say, understanding now that 61% have been redeemed in the county, knowing that that was a Visa gift card that could be used anywhere, that's very impressive.
Right.
I have to say.
Well, and I should say, that 61%, some people hold on to gift cards for
Yes.
a long time. So that 61% was the percentage that were actually used so far. 92% of the 61% was used in the locality.
Oh, I
Yeah.
misheard. That's
Yeah.
even more impressive.
Yeah, so only 8% used online, which is awesome.
If I were to buy a gift card, where would I go?
Well, that's what we're formulating the plans for that now.
Okay.
The idea is, currently, the idea is we would set up 2 or 3 events within our communities, and we would advertise them on the radio and in the newspaper and all over the social media about when to come to the event. So the way we had it in Williamsburg, we set up a tent, we had the radio station there playing music and, a big to-do, and then we sold the gift cards at that event. We had one at the Yorktown Freight Shed, one at Virginia Beer, one in Newtown, so all over. And then we sold the gift cards then. And it was interesting because the event started at noon. It was a noon to 2 event. People were lining up at 11 a.m. and we sold out in under an hour
Oh,
of
wow.
200 gift cards. So we would parse them out so that we don't all sell out all in one day. And we would make sure that wherever the events are, they're near local businesses so that it just makes sense for them to
And
go
how-
in the door.
When do you do it compared to the holiday season? Like, how early are you selling the? gift
Yeah,
cards?
so we plan to start promoting in October and have the events in November, maybe
Okay.
December.
So
we're-
right before people, like when people are shopping for
Right,
the
mhm.
holidays.
Yeah, and we lucked out with weather last year. We had a beautiful November, December last year, so
Right.
cross our fingers that we have another beautiful fall.
I feel confident too, the local radio stations, 100% would do this. And, they love, they love these events. We did it pretty much just you and me last year, and it was limitedly successful, but it's such a great boost. It is a great way to put money back into the community.
Awesome. Well, then, what questions do you have for us that we can answer in terms of, you were asking about how to move forward with
Yes.
the grant request?
So I know there's a grant request online. I've looked at it. Would it be appropriate for the bank to put the request in or for the chamber? Or how should we go about that? And when would you, I guess the information about when you need it is on there.
I don't know the formalities in terms of this. I think I'd like to see it come from the bank. That way it's a private business that's
Okay.
receiving the money. However, it might
That's
be more
fine.
appropriate for the chamber from the perspective of it. People understand it's going back into the community. So I think first I'll ask Don if there's rules and then open it up to everybody else.
I think it could go either way. I think maybe coming from the chamber would be more appropriate.
Sure.
Given that we've
think
got,
so, too.
yeah, that
Yeah.
we've got a
Yeah.
representative of Chesapeake Bank
Yeah.
on the.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I will,
And so that request would have to come in at our July meeting,
a July meeting.
because
Yes.
January and July are the only 2 meetings that we have each year. And that has to come in 30 days before the meeting, which is the third Thursday of July.
June.
I mean, of June, yes.
You're good.
Yeah.
Sharon?
So then what is the next step? So the grant cycle is we would submit the paperwork June-ish. It goes before the board in July.
Correct.
Given that this is something that we would need time to promote and push, what is the anticipated turnaround?
You would get the decision most likely, unless there was some sort of concern, you would get the decision that same day of our EDA meeting. And the money is typically turned around very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you
You
hang around after the meeting, I could give you the check.
Yeah.
So-
Yes.
What's the amount that, is that appropriate to ask? Like, what is the amount that the EDA thinks they can provide with us? Because that's gonna dictate what we have for.
And just, is it impactful to know what the other partners are? So everyone's in their budget cycle, and I know what the town of Kilmarnock is verbally committed to.
I mean, you could attempt to shame us into contributing more. However, we do have limitations in terms of how much we have. I think annually we get about $30,000 a year. So I think the limit that we, under normal circumstances, we give to any one request is up to $10,000. I think we're going to start evaluating that a little bit more closely, given we want to make sure our money goes as far around in the community as possible. This would have a great impact on the whole of the community. So I can easily say I would be in support of the 5,000 and potentially more if, anybody else have thoughts they want to share?
I would say the same. I just want to get on the record. For us, I mean, the bank, we get nothing out of this. I mean, this is, it's a cost, and we will incur marketing dollars to do it. We think it's the right thing to do, but there's no profit incentive for us. And it's open to any merchant. They do not have to be a customer of ours, like Paul said. Anyone's eligible to put their thing on the Buck Stays Here blog and all that stuff.
I just assume that of you guys these days, so thank you for clarifying that.
And I think that blog it's been around so long that people go to it. I think it's an important part of the community boost business, shop local campaign. It's been here as long as I've been chamber director for 8 years. I think we've done a boost event, or it wasn't called that, but it's understood that anyone can be on that website and it's for everybody to elevate communities and businesses.
Right.
Does anybody else want to provide feedback to Paula in terms of their grant request before we move on? No? Sounds good.
Can I
Just-
ask,
Just FYI, I do have 2 other requests for you all at your July meeting. So just heads up.
so can I ask this question? Should we ask for more, would you be willing to counteroffer, I
Yes.
guess?
Go high?
Yes, if you go
Okay.
high, we have been known to counter.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clarify that. And then we would be present at the July board meeting to hear and to answer questions or anything like that, correct?
Yes.
And maybe if there's like a little more detail around exactly rollout and all that stuff, that would be helpful
Right,
to us.
right. And I have this to leave with you all. It's just a write-up about what I said, so.
Thank you very much.
And the meeting in July is July 28th. It's,
Right, yes.
It's the 4th Thursday, not the 3rd Thursday. So
Right, we did move it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss that.
you all set that at your last meeting.
Yeah, sorry, I'm out of the country.
Zoom works outside of the country.
Yeah.
Just kidding, no, you should enjoy vacation.
Well, you can zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you very much, Paula. All right, next up, we have Jeff to talk to us about what I think is now known as Lancaster 2035.
Yeah,
and
thank you. You
you're-
got the rebranding that Sharon mentioned.
I did.
Yeah.
And
what-
then also, did I hear correctly that you've been appointed to the board of Go Virginia?
I am, and I've only done one Zoom meeting, and
Okay.
the next one is, in-person meetings either next week or the week after. So I don't have tons to report on that, but I can tell you what I know.
Sure. I think it would be good for the group to just know what Go
Sure.
Virginia does.
Sure. On Lancaster 35, first thing you heard Sharon mention it was formerly CBRAC, which sounded so governmental. It was a Community Business Relations Advisory Committee. We have the main group, and I have a handout for you all. Don't distribute this because the website Vision 2035 is not, we're not locked into that yet. We are probably not going to do that. The Communications Committee
Yeah.
is looking at that. But this is our leave behind. Just to refresh your memory, we have 6 subgroups under Lancaster 35 that are really, there are 5 functional areas, and there's 1 communications committee because we think communications or public education is probably the most important. The first one is broadband access, and as y'all know, we have a broadband authority who's very capably carrying that ball forward. In our strategy sessions for this, we put these 6 main pillars together, and they're also interdependent with each other because it gets you out of the, well, we can't get businesses because we got to work on the school system, or we need the school system, but we don't have the, so, they're all interrelated. So all these initiatives need to proceed concurrently for each of them to be successful and to be successful overall. So broadband's the first one. The next one, it says create a business-friendly environment. We're referring that as to the Jobs Committee or the Workforce Committee. Paul Shakatano is leading that, and actually Lisa's been very helpful in running focus groups for us and talking about what some people refer to as youth. Congratulations, you're
Thank
youth.
you. Appreciate that title.
But the young, specifically the target that Lisa's working on is that younger demographic, who some of them relocated here during the pandemic, and can we keep them? What are they looking for? What is the retention? And I have not seen the results in any of the focus group stuff Lisa
Well, and
said.
we've also actually, I have another group today of local public school moms. They just put their own group together as
Awesome.
an example, and we've had realtor groups, so we've actually gotten different demographics. People who have lived here longer but are from somewhere else, and people who just are from here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's going to, we're still in fact-finding discovery mode, I
Sure.
guess is the best way to put it onto that. The next is the school committee, and they've been doing a lot, and I think a little setback with Dan right now with illness on his part. But I think most of y'all probably seen, school systems been doing a good job of communicating outwardly. They've have some pieces that they've put out and are touting the good news that's coming out of our school system. We think, there's a hole to dig our way out of there from a public perception perspective. And I think the school has a lot going on, the new school land being purchased. There's a lot of positive things that on that. And I'll be interested to see what the public school moms say on that too. Housing, that's led by Jimmy Carter. Next Wednesday, we have, I refer to it as like a dog and pony show. But we do have the state muckety mucks coming down, but we have the Department of Housing and Community Development, Doug Jackson coming down. We have some folks from VHDA coming down, and the Housing Committee and most of the Lancaster 25. We're going on a 2-hour tour of them to show them what's going on in the county, and then we're coming back for a 2-hour planning session with them of like how can we plug in with what the state has to offer, specifically as it relates to housing. And so this is not low to moderate income housing. This is really workforce housing.
Okay.
So we're not. We know
Affordable
there's.
housing? Is it-
Yeah, affordable housing is probably the better term.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there are whole elements in state and federal government that's targeted low to
Right.
moderate income, and we're not saying that there isn't a need there,
Right.
but as far as this plan goes, we're trying to get it to that
Yeah.
next echelon up. And so that's, with interest rates going up, with costs going up, supply chain, all that, housing is a huge statewide issue, but it's we didn't start off from a position of strength on that.
Sure.
You know, so we're sort of doubly behind, I guess is the best way to put it, on affordable housing. So there's a major event next week, recreation and cultural opportunities. That is led by Jason Bellows, and they've had a couple meetings. I have not seen what their output from their committee is yet.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of effort going into that Tri-Way Trail right now. There's a grant proposal out that I know Jimmy Carter's working on. He reported that last week. And I think the grant proposal is like $1 million, isn't it?
Yeah, it was actually submitted last Thursday.
Yeah, that's why you weren't at the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you
yeah.
were working on the grant proposal. Thank you, Don. Yeah, and so that isn't the only pillar of the recreation and cultural opportunity, but that's the one that's most proximate. That is the shiny diamond that everyone's paying a lot of attention to. And actually, part of the discussion we had at Lancaster 2035 committee is that seems to have really got people's attention. So like people think it's imminent, you know, like when can we walk on the trail? And so we're trying to sort of from a communication
Sure.
perspective, not slow walk it, but be realistic that, you know, we're just at the $1 million grant phase to
Sure.
figure out how to design the thing. We haven't even figured out how to finance it yet. So there's that gets to a part of the public education committee. And then the next one is the communicate issues with all residents. We're going to change this sheet so it actually shows the name of the committees and who the chair is.
Okay.
And has a number of the chair of the committee so people know how to plug in.
Okay.
But the communication, that's what produced this piece. We now at least have sort of a logo. That's Paul Shakatano, myself, Joanna Carrington, and I'm leaving out somebody. who's
Susan
working-
Cock?
Susan Cockrell, yeah, is working on that. And Susan is the chair of that committee.
Okay.
And so we're just trying to get the message out. I spoke to the local Rotary Club. I think Paul has had about 10 public
He's had a lot of them.
presentations. Yeah, he's just queuing them up.
He's done
I
quite
think
a
he's
few.
had at least 10 public presentations to groups to explain what Lancaster 2035 is, how we're structured, and eliciting people to plug into the committee work. And so we're still, the messaging right there, like this is not where we want to end up, but we are looking for people to plug in and make it easy for them to plug in.
And how is that being communicated? Because I have to say, I wouldn't know anything about Lancaster 2035 if I weren't here.
Correct. That's going through those community groups. We've gone to Kiwanis, Rotary, Paul's done through his
Okay.
church. And so it's really public presentations.
Okay.
And that, so we have not gone, other than reporting what it's doing, we have not gone public with this because we're not quite ready for
Sure.
it yet.
Sure.
I think
Okay.
at the last meeting, we asked Glenn to stand up as a standalone page on the county website, Lancaster 2035. So we have a place to point people now.
Okay.
And once we have that, then there's sort of like a funnel to get people engaged.
Sure.
So we're really, the biggest thing that I communicated the last is we don't have, we're still building structure. We as the main group needs to have better understanding what the individual groups are doing, what's on their 90-day docket, and then we're going to put together a Gantt chart so we can sort of do the air traffic control of like, here's what the recreation committee is working on, here's what they intend to do in the next 90 days. Oh, here's what the housing committee, because there isn't that across the board communication between each of the committees up to the main group yet.
Sure.
So it's sort of it's a little underdeveloped that we're working on right now.
Sure. I think my experience with stuff like this kind of initiative is with the city of Alexandria. So I'm wondering, it's a whole different framework and level of resources that are available to you guys.
Correct.
How have you guys come up with these strategies and objectives in terms of, is it been just sourced within CREC's knowledge base, or have you been working with consultants?
Well, that's why we're doing the focus groups.
Let's circle
They're-
back to that, yeah.
The individual goals of each of the committees are not written in stone yet.
Okay.
That's how nascent it is.
Sure.
So those individual groups, through engagement through their groups, are deriving, here's what our committee needs to work on.
Sure.
So we have some like, here's what came up in our discussion, but those are not written in stone goals for those committees. Our biggest constraint right now it's all volunteers.
Sure.
And so
We're gonna come back to Don on that.
the discussion that we had at the last meeting is Paul and Susan have worked with Don to clarify what the job description is. So the job description, because before, we were sort of asking, oh, that'll fall into the assistant county administrator, and then another committee, oh, that'll fall into
Yeah.
assistant. And it
I
was-
heard
we
that in
were-
the meeting.
We were developing a unicorn, really.
Yeah.
That person doesn't exist. So they got with Don and said, you know, obviously that assistant county administrator, as it relates to Lancaster 2035, will change over time.
Yeah.
But we need that human resource before we can go much further, because we're sort of banging our heads against the wall
Sure.
with ability to get things done right now.
I think, and I understand all that, that makes perfect sense. The question I have is the analysis to stand up the 6 pillars. Was that, how was that done? Was it just, we know this, so we put it down, or did somebody do an assessment, a
We
formal
did
assessment?
not go out and do a formal assessment, because we
Okay.
have no budget.
Okay,
But
all right.
Paul Shakatano led a SWOT analysis.
We did.
Okay.
Through several meetings.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and that's how those 6 pillars were developed.
Got it.
I mean, I can flip over that chart right there and show you all of the, all of the discussions from the various meetings.
I may
It-
just
It
look
was
at those.
2 years in development, I would say. It was
Sure.
not,
Yeah.
as far as, and we ran it by the Board of Supervisors before we went to the next step. The goal, I think, resource constraints considered, is we would like to go have a plan developed to take it for the Board of Supervisors approval. You know, I'd like
heard
to say this
July.
summer, but given the progress of the committees, I think that's way optimistic.
Okay.
Personally, I don't know what you think.
Taryn, if you're interested in
Think so
hearing
too.
more about that, like, I've got another focus group running today that Susan's gonna give the presentation at. There may be more, so if you wanna come and hear it, Paul presented at the IVBA this week, and I know he's hit some of the town councils, some TBD. There's one outstanding, at least.
Irvington
Yeah.
He's
Council
avoided
Forum.
Irvington so far, but if you're interested in hearing the full presentation, it really does kind of go into your questions of like, how did this come to be? Why do we know these are the issues? And, you know, what's the big goal?
Sure.
Did I
I
share
think,
that? I've shared that with you before, haven't I, Karen? This?
yeah, you shared that
Yeah.
presentation. Yeah, I think it's more understanding the process and then how it's gonna impact the EDA. So I'm wondering how the strategy is developed. I think it's important to me, just knowing, kind of what the feedback loops have been and what we also need to consider. So, I'm wondering though, from the focus group perspective, when I hear that like a group of moms formed their own focus group and reached out to you, I kind of have a concern about bias and.
Well, they
and-
didn't form, so I was running focus groups and she couldn't make one of the
Sure.
people, and she then said, you know what, I've got a number of people that would be interested in giving input. So it was more in reaction to like, she couldn't make the date. But I hear what you're saying. We were trying to sort of silo them by some number of demographics.
Sure.
And then we kind of open them up to just say, actually, we get better ideas sometimes when you've got different perspectives and people are
Sure.
able to kind of ping pong back and forth. So it's not like a scientific focus group in that sense,
That's-
but
yeah.
they've been we've gotten a ton of great feedback.
I think what I'm hoping to understand is what has been the strategy in putting together the focus group so we know who you're targeting and what, I mean, the demographics, the objectives, and making sure that we understand from the EDA's perspective.
Yeah, so the 2 main objectives for the focus groups were public education.
Okay.
Really sharing the, we have a declining population in 20 to 55, and that affects us in a number of ways.
Okay.
It affects us with, higher taxes, less people to pay for the services of the county. I mean, there's kind of a lot of things there. The other thing was, and then getting people involved in those committees.
Sure.
So like when Paul presented this week to IVBA, he had that sheet with the committee heads and their emails. Like, if you want to get involved in one of these, just reach out
Sure.
to get those other perspectives and, because it's all volunteers.
Yeah.
People. And then the other goal is just to get that feedback from people. So we started with new residents, like pandemic residents. What brought you here, and then what will keep you here? Or what might, as we move on, hopefully, from the pandemic, what might be something that takes you back to where you came from or takes you back elsewhere. But then we kind of expanded it to people who had been here longer than that.
Sure.
10 to 15 years. And, you know, we did one that was mostly realtors because they're kind of on the front lines of meeting people who are
Yep.
coming here. So as we look at a 20% increase in the next, you know, 12 years or something, how do we attract people here? Based on what attracted people recently.
Sure.
And what are realtors, you know, able to do? Because a lot of them were like, we didn't know we had broadband for all coming by the end of next year.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't know that, but they could be, that's a selling point, right? For someone considering. So those were kind of the two big goals, was
And-
that feedback and the education part.
Knowing that you guys have one of your pillars is that workforce development and jobs, do you feel that you've gotten the feedback you need, or is there support that the EDA might be able to give you in terms of?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
There's a lot to do.
I just want to make sure we're offering.
No, I think the workforce one is probably the least developed of those six right now.
Okay.
Because that's such a big, I think the next step on that committee, and Paul is leading that committee, is incentives. You know, do we
Yeah.
come to the county with,
Yeah.
what sort of incentives? Are we trying to attract businesses? You know, up to this point, we're like BYOJ, bring your own
Yeah.
job.
Right.
There's like two parts to that
Yeah,
strategy.
like we can, I think we can spend a lot of time and effort on trying to hit the home run and attract the business here.
Yeah.
Until we have adequate incentives in place,
And labor,
facilities
I
like
mean,
through the
people who can
VEDB.
staff a business.
Yeah, we're looking more for like retention one,
Yeah.
and then attracting individuals through, you find your shoreline, the river realm, you know, those sort of things, we can get people here. But that's probably the least developed of the committee's action plans right now.
Okay.
It's the hardest, that and housing, I think, are the hardest too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And school,
In
school's
schools,
hard.
but I do think EDA could support that committee well. And that was kind of where I was thinking after Paul's presentation earlier this week. You know, a lot of people don't know about the grants we give. So like there's a new business I was at the other day and I mentioned it and they had just opened and she goes, we're really good at the craft of our business, but we're not really, you know, we're new business owners. We don't know a lot about, and that's where I started thinking about the educational piece or the sort of incubator roundtable type of environment where we can kind of call people who are starting or have started or interested in starting a business and say, come kind of get together with us and other business owners, throw your ideas out there, learn about funding sources. And I'd love to have a list of other funding sources they can kind of pull from. You know, I could see people who maybe want to be investors in the community and, you know, come to those meetings as well and be like, I'm going to look for a business I'm interested in investing in. So that's where I started thinking about more, let's create something that's not just these couple times a year they can come here to see us,
Right.
but get to know what we do throughout the year. And,
Yes.
you know, having seen what the chamber talked about, they're probably the perfect partner in that because they kind of have the infrastructure set up to do that. But I think there's a lot that could help spur on that work.
Sure. Perfect.
Right. And I think as part of our committee, the best example of workforce and social investing is Julian.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, he's plowed 16 million plus whatever. And so
Right.
as far as the lift given in community by attracting business and providing sustainable workforce, he being part of committee, I think is a valuable contributor.
Okay, fantastic. I think I won't keep pushing because what I want to talk about in a later discussion is synergies we can start to have throughout the community is the EDA.
Right.
So I'd love to revisit that.
If we could remove one iceberg that's holding things up now, it is that position.
Which is
And that, when we don't want that position to be, you know, the be-all, end-all, but that is,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
we always circle back to, we only have so much time because we each have other things to do, so we're
What's
trying to
the
keep
status
it
of that
momentum.
position? What's
What's
the
that?
status of that job
Don's going to
description?
present on that
Oh, you are?
in a little bit. So let's
Yeah.
hear
I
about Go
haven't seen it. I
Virginia.
think it's been done.
Yeah,
Like
let's
what's
hear
been
about Go Virginia next, and
And
then
then Go Virginia, honestly, Tara and I have been on one online meeting. I'm going to the live one. It's next week, I think. The Region 6, we lost our director
oh, that explains. Okay.
and had to replace her. And so Anne Marie Klumpen, I have not met her. She's the newly elected director, so I'll meet her at the meeting. So there's been sort of fits and starts on Region 6.
Okay.
And so I'll have more to report at the next meeting. I can't give you a great report now. I mean, the agenda, I know what the agenda is. We're meeting at VIMS next, it's on Monday, actually. And Most of it, Lisa Hall's presenting something on the workforce feasibility
Sure.
study that she's done. But most of it, honestly, Region 6 seems to be, from my perspective, skewed toward Fredericksburg
Sure.
and Stafford County and the things that they have going on. So
Got it.
they're looking for regional, that's sort of their state mandate. And the stuff we have right now isn't really regional.
Sure.
We'd like to be regional, but I think, I'm still learning.
Well, I'm going to take this back a step because I'm not sure that everybody here is familiar with Go Virginia. One of the reasons that I don't know a lot myself, but one of the reasons I asked you to speak to it was my understanding is that they do have a strong focus on rural economic development, among other things. So it's development in the state, but
Depending on the region.
Yes.
Yeah, our Region 6 would clearly be, other than Stafford County,
Right.
rural development. I think it was under, you probably know this better than I, it was established, was it Bob McDonald?
I believe so, yeah.
I think Bob McDonald, when he was governor,
Okay.
put together Go Virginia as an economic development initiative with funding from the state. And they divided the state up, I think, into 8 regions.
Yeah, it's 8 or 9, I can't remember
8 or
exactly.
9 regions.
Okay.
And then each of those had developed their own board. And those boards are made up of components of each of the counties or whatever within those regions.
okay.
And they're supposed to focus on regional economic growth, synergies for that. And like the one that's sort of similar to what Lisa's saying, the one that has been funded by Go Virginia is called Riot, and it's a business incubator in the Fredericksburg, Stafford region
Okay.
that they funded several years ago. And that, I think, I know the chair of this committee because he's an old banking friend of mine, and I think it's probably not dissimilar to Lancaster 2035, still getting its sea legs, I
Okay.
guess.
Would you do me a favor on Monday? I'd love an introduction. I reached out through the website and
Uh-huh.
didn't hear back from them. I'm assuming it's because they were in flux. So if I can get an introduction with their director,
Sure.
that would be great.
Sure.
Because I would love to
An
have.
email introduction.
Yep, that would be great.
Yep.
I would love to have maybe them present next, not you, but the executive director at our next meeting
Oh,
potentially.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good idea.
you want to
Quickly,
just write it down right there? I
Oh,
will
yeah.
send an email, but that's,
Quickly, this mentor and offer internships to young people. In my business, it's been very difficult to find skilled workers. And
sure.
what I did was I had my employees post on Facebook that they needed help. Not me, but my employees. We got 20 people come by the office and filled out applications.
Really?
And from those 20 young people, I was able to hire 3 that I thought would work, and they're working for me right now.
That's fantastic.
And
That's awesome.
I made the commitment that I was just gonna fund this myself, and that if I could in some kind of way, in the process of doing the job, recover the cost of what I was paying this person. That was all I was trying to do.
Sure.
And you would not believe what it's done for the boatyard. It's increased productivity because
Awesome.
just having the young people around who are energetic, they move faster and they can do things quicker, they just don't know what to do.
Sure.
And so,
Okay.
but the social media was the key, because that's what the young people are looking at.
Yeah.
They're not looking at newspaper ads.
No.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Sure.
social media, and then I think word of mouth got around too.
Yeah. The Jobs Committee is really concerned on the loss of trades.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's plumbers, electricians, boatyard
Well, these are,
workers,
all 3 of these
dentists,
people are,
you know.
not college, they graduated from local high school,
Mhm.
but they're very energetic and they want to learn the boat trade,
Right.
boat business.
Gotcha.
That's great.
So
We
that-
might have you speak to that.
I'd be happy
Jobs
to.
Committee.
Yeah,
Mention that
Awesome.
to Paul.
Yeah.
I'll mention that to Paul.
yeah.
We are running behind on the agenda, so I just want to make sure that we end on time today also. So we'll let Dawn speak to that, and then we can circle back because I think it is worth continuing this discussion. So,
Well, first of all, let me just say I apologize for being late. I had another issue with another county department that I had to take care of first. So I'm sorry that I missed Billy Barrick's introduction because I had a few nice things I wanted to say about Billy. I've known him my whole life, so I guess, Billy, you introduced yourself, I guess, early on?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, but
Feel free to
Anyway.
say nice things still.
Well, I mean, Billy is a native of the county. I mean, he and his family are all educated in Lancaster County Public Schools. His father was treasurer of Lancaster County for how many years?
For 12 years.
12 years.
Actually, served in that office for 20.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, Billy's got a long history here and had a successful career in Farm Bureau, so I think he'll be a great addition to the EDA. So, sorry I missed that, but I can't be in two places at the same time. Just picking up on a couple of things that Jeff mentioned. The Tri-Way Trail grant was submitted last week. That is a big deal. I think it's actually 1.75 is what we
Wow.
submitted. Getting to the Recreation Committee that Jeff mentioned, that Supervisor, Vice Chairman Jason Bellows chairs, we actually closed on the 5 acres of waterfront on Carter's Cove yesterday.
Excellent.
So the county owns that. We can, we're in the process of having an RFP go out for engineering services as needed, architectural services as needed, so we can have those people at the ready to design the facilities that will be at that site and others. Taylor Creek Park, county already owns that down off of 222. We've actually met on site 2 or 3 different times. The Tides is ready to roll on their affordable housing out front on 222. The county park is on the back, at the back of the property on the waterfront, so that's moving along from a recreation standpoint. We've got
Something burning down?
not yet. Greenvale Creek Marina, public boat marina, public boat ramp. We've actually got all the permits in place to redo that pier, the tending pier for that ramp, extend it as a fishing pier. So that's going to be happening from a recreational standpoint. And we're also looking at an extended project at Windmill Point to put a breakwater in front of the county-owned beach, and also through a public-private partnership with the marina owner, gain some more public beach access in front of the restaurant area there and some improvements there. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, I guess behind the scenes kind of being done from a public access point of view. So one other thing on the housing that Jeff mentioned, I think this tour and meeting that we'll have next week, I think one of the things that I personally want to learn about is more of how do you develop the public-private partnership aspect of building affordable housing. The county still owns the 156 acres at Good Luck Road that we originally purchased for schools back in 2018, I believe it was. And now that the school has focused or shifted to the property in front of Hills Quarter by the ballpark, we've got to come up with a plan for that 156 acres. And part of that could be some type of affordable housing project through a public-private partnership. So looking forward to that next week as well. I know you mentioned, Taryn, about how do you get the word out about Lancaster 2035. At the March Board of Supervisors meeting, Paul made a presentation to the board, and the board committed to sending out a mailer to the entire county once we get it in final form. And I think that's what Susan and Jeff and Paul are all working on. So that would go out to everybody. So that's just some things I jotted down since I arrived. Talking about it's called an assistant county administrator / economic development director. I tend to think of it more as an economic development director as opposed to an assistant county administrator. But obviously, I've got to have a person that I can give some things to, because, like I said, I can't be in two places at one time. And Ann made the comment about how she was a one-horse show, and a lot of times when that phone goes off, I feel like I'm a one-horse show as well. So I need somebody to put a few things on, and that person would sit in this seat at that point in time. It would also guide the Lancaster 2035 group. And so, but that position also is brand new, and it's kind of unique because it's not a typical economic development director position. Because, I think of an economic development director position as what Sharon Phillips is with Kilmarnock, where you have, 50 storefronts that you're trying to cater to and help figure out ways to support. The county jurisdiction outside of the towns doesn't have that many storefronts. So this position is unique in that way. And so my focus or my interpretation of how this job description would develop attending the Lancaster 2035 meetings was that, hey, they're creating a very specific job description here for this position. And that was the road that we were following, I was following, that, once that is done, then I can go out with this job description and hire someone. And Paul and Susan and I met at the end of February, and they looked at the template or sample job descriptions I had from other jurisdictions, both in Virginia and in North Carolina. And we kind of picked from here and there, and then Susan and Paul put their 2 cents worth in. And so we've got almost a final draft of what this job description will look like. So that's going to be going out, I would say within 30 days for sure. I've got 2 positions in the county that affect us on a day-to-day basis doing business that I've got to fill prior to this one, because this is a brand new position. So
I'm right there with you.
So it's, as Jeff said, this is, we're gaining structure, we're building, and so is this. So it's almost in final form, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll take some of the load off of my plate, and hopefully put someone here who has a lot more expertise and experience in this area than what I have, because what I have in this area is 0.
And Don, I think it's a fair statement. I guess Susan Cockrell's probably the most versed in looking for this type of person anyway. I think we're under no illusions that's going to be an easy find.
That's very true. And Susan, when Susan and Paul and I met, she made the statement that this is almost more of a marketing type description. And it really is, because you don't have all those storefronts to cater to like Sharon does in Kilmarnock. I appreciate Susan and Paul's help, and we're almost there.
Got it. So in terms of that position, I think early on when we were talking about the position, the EDA also thought it would be a resource for us as well. And I think it goes back to the question of, is that true? But also the future of the EDA. So maybe we can kind of roll into the next discussion and then ask you questions as we go, incorporate you.
Yeah, I think your prior thought of plugging the EDA into the Lancaster 35 it probably answers that same question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess on that front and talking about that, the next discussion really is just what do we want the EDA to do moving forward? We have Lancaster 2035 as an initiative that's driving strategy for the entire county, and it also obviously impacts the EDA. So what is the what is the anticipated relationship? And I think I go to you, Don, in terms of what you guys have envisioned, you and the Board of Supervisors, in terms of the future of Lancaster 2035, and then what the EDA does. Do we support the strategy they developed? Does Lancaster 2035 continue or disband at some point? Maybe. And then what do we do? Are we just giving grants, or are we actually going to be more involved in this strategy?
And Jeff, help me out here. I think Lancaster 2035, once this vision is drafted and complete, I think Lancaster 2035 will eventually go away. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Here, but we've had a fair amount of discussion. We don't think it should be something formulated, dropped solely in the county and let the county run with it. I think, that term public-private partnership gets thrown around a lot, and that can mean anything. But I do think some form of a public-private partnership is what Lancaster 35 will morph into. I think
Okay.
that committee as its own, the intent is to develop a plan, but the plan is going to need something other than just the county government. And so maybe that is the EDA, and maybe that is some private focus in a separate standing committee to carry it forward. But we have not spent a lot of time on long-term focus because we want to get something, but I think all the Lancaster 2035 folks is, we're in it for the intermediate sprint, but we're not in it for the marathon. But we need to know, as part of the development of the plan, we also have to develop the structure that can sustain it. And
Okay.
we don't think it's just county government.
Perfect.
I mean,
Okay.
that's my opinion.
No, I think
offense
you're
to you,
right.
Donna.
No, I mean,
I think the concern is that it needs to be, the public education part is, the intent is to broaden the base of engagement. So we don't want to light that fire and then have it go away.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so like Roy's on the committee, just like I am. Lisa's been instrumental in doing that. I think we do have good EDA involvement now in the
Sure.
formulation of it, but I think the EDA being part of that public-private partnership is probably where it ends up being housed with support of the assistant county administrator.
Okay.
Would be my, wet thumb to
I-
the wind.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, as Jeff said, we've got a good spark. We don't want it to go out. I mean,
Sure.
I can see, since I've worked for the county since '07, the county's always talked about public access. They want more public access, but when it came time to actually put money into it, it got set aside. So that spark kind of went out. But I think the political will is there now on the board to make these things happen. Public access, the economic development, I think it's there. And,
Okay.
and so we can't let that spark go out. I mean, there are some heavy hitters on this Lancaster 2035 committee, and I think what the board was looking for was, hey, help us, give us, let's put together a roadmap, some goals of what we want the county to look like, and then the board can fund this as we move forward. But I think Jeff's right. It ultimately, whatever Lancaster 2035 morphs into, I think the EDA is going to have a larger role moving forward with that.
Okay.
And I do think, Karen, I think it's important to note, I think so far, based on my one presentation and Paul's 10 presentations, is trying to, the initial thrust of that public education committee is to demonstrate the need or the problem. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't even know that there's an issue. So the population decline, the contraction of the trades, all that stuff, and the decrease in the school population and the less funding coming from the state because of that we're already in the midst of a problem.
Sure.
And so we're trying to point the need, and from what Paul said, what we haven't gotten any pushback on that or on the initiatives. I think to those groups, granted they're probably civic groups, they seem to go, yeah, that makes sense. And so what we don't want is we don't want to get to the point where we're presenting a plan and there's a contingent of folks going, we don't need this.
Sure.
Whether it's not in my backyard or whether it's we don't need to spend any money on this, we're trying to get ahead of that. So when it comes to that, people clearly, there's a demonstrable need. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think I was hoping to kind of start this conversation with that framework because we have a couple challenges that we know of, and I think we should probably just talk about additional challenges we have. But Roy has raised funding as an issue, and I think my immediate thought on funding was, let's try to get grants with the new economic development director. But maybe we just start, if everybody wants to share kind of their thoughts and concerns for the future of the EDA, both strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then we can kind of just talk about where we're going and how we can, with that roadmap in mind, what we can do, because I think this has got to be the start of a larger conversation. I don't think we can solve this in the next 40 minutes.
Right.
So,
I'll start here, and I think.
I've
Go ahead, Roy. Go ahead, Roy.
I've always been concerned about funding. As Don said, we've only got, $25,000 coming in this year. And that doesn't go far when you're getting requests for $10,000 apiece. and we want to be able to help the businesses. So I don't know what's available. I think we all just need to keep our eyes and ears open to what funding may be available. Obviously, COVID started throwing government money at things, and we need to know where we can go for more money. Don Siegel has said the bonding, the bonds are tough to come by right now. And some counties are, floating these bonds at, EDA doesn't get the 1/8% that we get, which is $12,500 a year on a $10 million bond, on $10 million. So we really need, and if we're going to help businesses monetarily, we certainly need to try to increase what our yearly income is. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that. We've talked when Dr. Silverman was here, we talked about philanthropy, we talked about angel investors, we've talked about a lot of different things, and it's sort of like the 2035 thing. We talk about it, but we've got to implement it in some way. We've got to, get to the point that we can actually do an action plan of trying to get more money. And I'm not exactly sure where to go for that. An economic development director could certainly help with state funding and other things. I just want to know what your thoughts
But
are about
I
getting.
like what you just mentioned about angel funding and philanthropy, people who, other avenues that aren't maybe the traditional ways that like an EDD would go after it. Is that something that we've seen in other places in the country? I mean, I would be really interested to see how other, especially similar regions, smaller rural regions have approached that, because we have some, as you mentioned, like Julian's been a good example of that. Now, that's not to say that we can necessarily replicate that, but who knows till you ask, right? I mean, again, I think that's where like an open forum of sort of like, what ideas does the community have? And that's what we've been trying to do in the focus groups too, is really say like, what solutions do you guys see to these problems? And we have gotten some good ideas.
On the angel funding, we said we did have some discussion. It was probably right pre-COVID. I do have a friend of mine from Danville, Virginia, and they have a very well developed, because they lost all their textiles. Their town went from 65,000 to 40,000, and so they were like, oh gosh. And so they had to retrench, and they have an angel network. And I talked to him, and was going to go down and meet with that individual probably 3 years ago. And the message I got was, that's great, but of like the 8 things that you need to start working on, develop an angel network needs to be predicated with like 1, 2, and 3. And so really, I think the Lancaster 2035 stuff is some of the elements that, and so that, the only reason I say that is we thought about it, but that doesn't mean that we can't run with it now. But I do know they're bigger than we are. I mean,
And where is that located? What's it?
Danville, Virginia.
Yeah, I've heard some things about what they've done down there.
Well, they also have a $600 million Caesars Casino coming to
Yeah.
now, so it's a little different now. But they were blighted big time. But that's where all this stuff came out of there. So I can go down and meet with that director.
It would just
or
be
if anyone
interesting
wants
to know
go.
how they've approached it, what challenges they've run into, and we can maybe glean some
Yeah.
Yeah.
some things to
I
try.
think that's an element of a plan.
Right. And I think my goal in this conversation is to avoid getting anywhere prescriptive right now today. It's to kind of just start with, what do we need to be addressing? Brainstorm right now, at the high level, what are our challenges, what are our opportunities, a mini SWOT of sorts, and then start working backwards for a framework where we can, because to your point, we need 1 and 2 before we can get further. So where are we going?
I think
how do we get there?
I think as a principal, Taryn, I
Yeah.
think there is merit to any money coming out of this group that we can say is not taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
So I think that is like, sort of provides a nice firewall that, when I say doesn't insulate us from criticism, but I think that's, so I think any funding we get would need to be grant related.
Sure.
I don't know what grants are out there that would support economic development authorities.
I don't either. When the grant writer was here last Wednesday for the Tribeway Trail, we went on the site, the grants.gov, and I mean, it is thousands of grants for everything. I mean, he showed me how to manipulate that site a little bit, but I mean, you could have a full-time person just looking at that
Yeah.
constantly.
Oh, for
Some
sure.
people do.
And I think that, I mean, that is an opportunity. It's harder to come by. They exist. I know USDA offers a lot with our agriculture community and the watermen actually, or aquaculture have those opportunities. I think they exist, and I think we just need someone to help shepherd those opportunities. So I think it's something, maybe the government's not getting it, but we have that incubator where
Yeah.
we're pointing people to a list
Well-
of opportunities as well.
And that's a good idea. I mean, I would say in addition to finding funding sources so we can give more money to businesses, I really do love the idea of sort of building, I guess it's community for the businesses that we're serving, because we're not giving grants out every month, right? So it's like their opportunities to interact with us are pretty limited right now.
Right.
And that's probably aligns with our funding available. But I think the way to really invigorate a business community is to create a place where they can be invigorated, right? And it may just be a physical time and place. It doesn't necessarily have to be that we're really doing anything per se. But I would love to build sort of a culture around the EDA that is more than just come to us once for, because then do those companies ever come back to us, the people we funded? We just kind of interact with them one time, but are there ways we could continue to support their journey with resources? And again, I don't know that this is necessarily EDA's purview with these other sort of entities, but I certainly think that would really create some gravity to what we're doing with the dollars.
Sure.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
Yeah, I think that's the opportunity. We have a chamber that has 300 members.
Yeah.
We have the town of Kilmarnock that has a person to interact with
Yeah.
their 50, their Main Street businesses. So I think that partnership, or forging partnerships there, could be an opportunity we have to become more effective. Trying to create regular dialogue with those groups. I think, I didn't share it, but my intention for meetings moving forward is to have a regular presence from the chamber and the town to make sure we know what's going on, they know what's going on, and our message, we at least have some framework for
Yeah, we're working together in a
disseminating
way that-
information and working together. You've heard me say it probably 20 times already, but I think synergies with the limited resources we have, working together and forming partnerships are gonna be the best way for us to be effective. I think we had Dr. Silverman brought in a ton of great ideas, but steps 1 and 2 are our weakness right now. We don't have a framework to support those. So I'm looking forward to seeing I think Lancaster 2035 is the board's support of that is a fantastic opportunity and a strength here in the county. And Dawn being 3 people in one. So I think there are some strengths, but weaknesses, I also think we have to address our weaknesses, and they are, it has been communication with the rest of the business community to this point. I do think I know Roy has made an effort to go to every single business meeting from the different communities, but I know I previously wasn't engaged with them. And I think it would be, as members of the EDA, more engagement from the rest of us, other than just the chair in the local business opportunities. And I think that's happening now with the 3 of you with Lancaster 2035. But I think there are more. There's more we can do.
And I think too, maybe it's not just that we have to have someone who can make every meeting, but I'm involved with IVBA, for instance. I'm on their marketing committee and doing some things related to, more specifically to Irvington. And so maybe we set up a framework of how do we leverage the people on this board who are already involved in some of these other groups without, adding to the schedule, so to speak, but just sort of have a way that's easy to say, this idea matches with this one, we need to get these people together. Or, we're trying to fill a need in this area and these people are already working on it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Has anybody been to a Chamber of Commerce meeting to see the way they work?
I have employees on the board, but I have not been.
Then to a what kind of meeting?
Go ahead. Oh, the question was, has anybody else been to a Chamber of Commerce meeting in the last year to see how they go? One of the things that they do that I think Ann mentioned, and I think to your point, is they do have a representative from every town or the municipalities from different sectors that are reporting. And I think we could create a framework, as you've shared, where we have, the board is or each EDA member commits to being that representative to another, to a faction of the business community, and we can report back also on what's
Yeah,
going on.
that'd be a great way
So we
to-
remain informed as an EDA on what the needs are
And we
of the
can show what we're
businesses.
doing with them.
Yeah.
And their members.
So I think
That's a great
that's
idea.
one opportunity.
That would be great.
Billy, Bruce,
So,
Roy, do you guys want to add?
Well, I mean, we're aligning ourselves
Yeah.
with other groups, which is so important. I think one of the best ideas I've heard today that we could give to other businesses, every business says, I can't find help. And look what Bruce just came up with.
Oh, yeah.
You had 20
Yeah.
people show up,
Yeah, it
and you
was-
hired three
Yeah,
people
you
for
know,
that? That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
You know what, I mean, obviously, most of those people that showed up, they're not gonna be able to get a job, unfortunately. But I was able to find three that I thought had promise, and they were, so, I mean, there are young people out there looking for stuff to do. I just don't think they know exactly where to go or how to approach it.
Sure.
And I don't know, I think the difference was, it wasn't me running an ad in the newspaper looking for employees. It was my employees looking for help. Come help me, I'll train you.
Right.
And speaking from their own experience,
And
right?
actually-
Kind of gives some
Actually,
credence to the.
actually, something that would work with that is to create some sort of little video of what that person is doing. And what my employee who did most of this, I mean, it was his idea. He said, we got so much work, I need some help.
Yeah.
And so let's see what we can do. And he actually posted a YouTube video of what he does
Oh, that's great.
on the boatyard. And that's what got everybody, they could see, hey, look, this is a boat, it's outside, we're doing all this stuff. And I think it really is a way to reach the young people. I think that's the key. You gotta, if you wanna make something happen, you really have to think about it.
Yeah.
And work on it and come up with a solution.
And I think putting together these pieces that we're talking about here, having representation from the EDA throughout the county and the different facets, plus, what we're learning from each other. I think we could also be a de facto hub for business information
Yeah.
and help, where we can come back and, maybe we do lessons learned that, from the groups we've talked about, and we can share and start pulling that together. And then see where, that's pretty informal, but maybe there could be structure put around what we're learning from each other and the other businesses. To help with the incubator idea, I think we all
Well,
want
what
in some
about a
capacity.
central hub of information? I know you talked about, someone said about like the 2035 plan having a landing page website, but I think that could be the same for kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if a common need is I need people to work for me, or I need a job, well, what about if all the businesses we're in touch with, or the chamber's in touch with, hey, tell us the job, a common place to put all the job listings, and then job seekers. Like, it's just a pairing up, but technology could make that very simple. And then it would be marketing that's a resource that's out there.
Oh, sure. I
You
think
know?
it makes us look better to outside businesses.
Right.
My counterpart in Georgia that I talk about from Main Street America actually has that website
Yeah.
where it is a place for businesses to come and say, this is
To
the
easily put
available
what they
land
need.
that's,
Yeah.
these are the people I need to talk to get we don't have business licenses, but
Yeah.
these are the steps
Right, what do you
within
need
the
to
county
do
to
to
get started.
to get-
And then afterwards, who are the resources I can reach out to in terms of additional help,
Well, and it-
mentoring and counseling. It's a
Yeah.
place to, one, educate the community, but
Mm-hmm.
also make outside of businesses aware that we really are business friendly.
Well, and it could include things like if I'm looking for a brick and mortar space in the county,
Right.
what's available? I mean, who manages all that? Is it
Yeah.
real estate agents? Does someone privately own it? I mean, I wouldn't know the answer to that
Yeah.
question if I was looking for a space, but we know there's spaces available, right? There's
Right.
lots of empty buildings. So I think that is a huge part of it. Just on a communications and marketing level, just a central place for the problems we know, the questions we know people are asking. And then that could be built out as just a resource hub, and then all of these alliances we're talking about, and, you can link to other people's websites and
Sure.
resources.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to put on the list of things we can start doing moving forward. I really am interested, Billy, you've been here your whole life and you've seen the evolution of Lancaster, both the good and the bad. What do you think from the Economic Development Authority and the county and supporting economic development? has done well, could do better?
You know, I'm listening to all your ideas, and they're all great. I like the idea of the 2035, Jeff. I think it's just grand that we'll carry that vision and that focus forward. You know, I kind of come from that rural background, and as I said earlier, with the agriculture, my love for agriculture, the first, back from the FFA days, as Don knows, we had a great FFA leader, advisor, if you will, from that low-tech side, John Mathias, that was here in the county. His wife was secretary at the high school. John always talked about diversification of agriculture. You don't necessarily have to work on the family farm to be involved, just as Lonnie, Don's brother, works with Colonial Farm Credit. I went to work with Farm Bureau. So I think the regional VOTEC Center, expanding on Bruce's ideas, has just been grand for our community. You know, for all the tri-counties that feed into that, we offer, because Mom was a school teacher also, we offer rental properties, you know, and I try to center these properties around school teachers as well, because I know they're coming into the area and they're looking for affordable housing. So
Yeah.
we've been very blessed to have that group, you know, cater to our rental properties, if you will. Some of the VOTEC kids that have other opportunities in the area, like in Northumberland County, there's brothers that actually work for their father's business on the side from their efforts, in VOTEC. One does electrical and handyman. So with my rental properties, just more recently than not, I bought an office building down between Kilmarnock and Irvington. So I've had them in doing the electrical piece and putting in fixtures and so on. So it's good to get these young people that they do this on the side, as much as my son does landscape on the side, did landscape on the side for a while before he went full time. It seems like it's just a good opportunity to reach into these facets of that VOTEC area and keep these young people in this area employed and opportunities for them to expand their little businesses, because these kids, they buy insurance because they have to protect themselves for the handyman business. So there's, you know, it goes trifold. So
The folks you know that have left the community, why were they leaving? Why, was it not a lack of opportunities, or?
I don't really know. You know, myself personally, back in the 70s, my desire to like Dad was World War II, so I always thought that I wanted to be in the military, and I wanted to come back and join the state police. I think I alluded to that more to you yesterday. I had an uncle that was a lieutenant. I looked up to him, so I felt like that was what I wanted to do. That didn't occur. You know, it was a lot of things that was going on in family dynamics that didn't allow that to happen. But, you know, I found a way within agriculture, because we still raise quarter horses. I have German Shorty, I have quarter pups, so we're that, you know, we're still kind of inclined to that farm, if you will. But I also love the opportunity to be able to be on farms and ensure that those machines and see the activities and see the growth, and that includes also, you know, people that are coming into oysters, you know, the oyster industry. So that's sort of another big increase I'm seeing in our community. I have several, I'm just writing down some notes, but several, 4 or 5 handful of folks I'm familiar with, and they're from all over the area. Some are doctors in Richmond that come in and have the oyster cages, you know, in the area. So it's kind of interesting to see that growth too in our community.
It's something else for sure.
Truly.
You know, went to the VOTEC school in Warsaw and was really impressed with everything that was going on up there. And when I drove home, I stopped by Kilmarnock Auto right outside of Whitestone, because I know Brent's been looking for mechanics, and I said, "Is anybody from the VOTEC school ever come to look for a job?" He goes, "No." So I think there's maybe a little bit of a disconnect that the businesses need to approach the VOTEC school, at least get the information up there. Hey, I'm looking for a mechanic. I'm looking for, you know, nursing for the hospital. I'm looking for, you know, a boat mechanic and things like that. Because it's a great school. I mean, I think they've really done a nice job. But unfortunately, a lot of the people, you know, they leave because they don't know some of the opportunities that are here. So we need to get that out to businesses to seek, you know, the VOTEC school and let them know what's available locally. Keep some people here.
Got it. Bruce, or do you have any ideas, the things that the EDA could do given kind of the framework or the roadmap we're on in terms of supporting the community, you know, both from that strengths piece or challenges, what we can address.
Well, I don't know, I was just thinking about the funding issue is the biggest thing.
Sure.
We can have all the great ideas and all the organization in the world, if we don't have the money, we're not gonna be able to do it.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know, you brought up the idea as long as it doesn't have public funds involved with it, but I was just.
taxpayer
Or taxpayer
Yeah,
funds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was where I was gonna go. But it seems like whenever you're doing anything philanthropic, you can always get a multiplier effect. If somebody can come up with some seed money, and then you can do a campaign for economic development, you know, a matching type of thing. That always seems to work really well.
Yeah.
And, but my thought was maybe the county could put in the budget to have some seed money to fund something like that and make it a pretty big number. Put it in the budget, and then up to us to try to go out and get other people to match it. And that way, it's not all county funds, it's some public, private, as we were talking about. Some kind of way that we can really generate some money. That's about the only thing that I could kind of think of as far as being able to get money.
Okay.
There might be something here, like maybe we're the catalyst to get something done. Maybe with like the community foundation, maybe we can have the catalyst to raise money and have it in a donor advised fund there, because I think people will be more
Yes.
apt to give to something like that where I'm not giving to the EDA, but I'll give to
Yeah.
this separately managed fund, and we're just the catalyst for getting it done.
I'll reach out, that's a great idea. I'll reach out to Lincoln about that. Lincoln, for everyone else, is the new, I think he's taking over Margaret New's person.
Oh, I've not met.
Yes.
Okay.
He'll be the director of sorts for the local River County's Community Foundation. So I'll reach out to him about that. I think we should have some discussions outside of this meeting to continue kind of brainstorming. Obviously, I think we're all really busy, so try to do some brainstorming over email. Because I think we have 15 minutes left on other agenda items, but I don't want to lose this. So I think maybe we should split up into groups that are brainstorming on the ways to communicate with the community better and form partnerships, and then funding groups. And then I think we do need to address our criteria to align better with Lancaster 2035 as we get there. But I do think our funding criteria should also be addressed, and a framework, because I do see that as a little bit of a weakness that we have, in that we don't have enough money and we need to be more deliberate in how we give the funding. So I think, I think those two groups though initially is the best place to start, because
I would agree.
we only have so much time. Who would like to work on funding? It sounds like you already have some great ideas and
Well,
others.
yeah, I'll put time in. I mean, it's tough this time of year for me, but.
Understood.
Yeah. but
What's the other
I'll
group,
do it.
Taryn?
Communication and partnerships, community partnerships. Yeah, okay.
Let me, I think that fits in with the Public Education Committee.
Yes.
Like in my Lancaster 35 role, I see coming off the housing, I see coming off the jobs, staying on the public education and staying on the master committee, but I can't do all four of those.
Sure.
So I think that what you're saying there fits in with that Public Education Committee as far as how they weave together.
Okay, okay. I would like to be a part of, I might just be a part of both or copied on both, just so I can bridge the conversations together, but I definitely want to be a part of the community partnerships. Roy, what would you like to, obviously, if anybody wants to do both, you're welcome, but,
Funding, I think, is, I'd like to try to help out Bruce. I can
Okay.
get some ideas. And Jeff, if you do go down to Danville, let me know. I've got someone that was very instrumental in their EDA down there.
Sure, I think maybe I should back burner that until we get these other steps done
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
Would you
Yeah.
agree? Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think that's a resource that we know is there. I don't think the time to go there is right now.
yeah, I agree. But I think it's worth putting on the list of things to brainstorm about, or in the brainstorming, yeah, not losing it. So you said community partnerships. What would you like to to work with.
Either one. You say which one, I'll go with it.
I think funding is currently the one with the shorter list or smaller group,
I'll
so.
go with funding.
Yeah, perfect. Can we commit to just starting an email thread and sharing some ideas within the month? And then kind of every group then takes it from there on their own and just
Yeah.
reports back at the next meeting?
Just some brainstorming.
Yeah,
I would suggest we do a live document, like a Google Doc.
Sure.
If everyone's familiar with those, just so that we're not, I find email trains very hard to capture real information, but
Sure.
I'd be happy for partnerships to just put some headers in, and we can kind of flesh out some ideas under that.
okay.
So it's like a live document, and it's not,
Yeah, I think
Okay, that'd be great.
so.
that works. I was just thinking about who owns the document, but we don't
But if
have
it's
email.
shared, I think it should be editable.
No, I was just thinking about from it being a county asset, like normally you would,
Oh.
because I'm working with the VA, everything has to be on a VA.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
I don't think,
Maybe Don can
I think that
clarify what
this
needs
is
to be done
draft, so
there.
it'll be fine.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I think those are our next steps. I want to keep things achievable, so we're not just spinning wheels. Fantastic. So I guess our next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 2022 meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Okay. Do I then have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make the motion.
All right, a second? Perfect. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. All right. On to the next agenda item. Right. Just making sure I don't mess this up this time.
All right.
All right.
Billy, I'm gonna, I don't know how much you know about how this works, but let me just try to give you the Reader's Digest version. The EDA can issue up to $10 million of bonds each calendar year, and the Lancaster EDA receives 1/8 of 1% as an administrative fee. And that is how, what gets pulled together for the grants that the EDA gives to individual applicants who come before you in January and July. So that's where the grant money comes from that the EDA has. We have two accounts, a basic checking account from the financial report that you'll see. Currently, the ending balance after your last grant check of $7,500 in January, you've got a balance of $18,091.63 there. As Taryn alluded to earlier, we currently have bonds in place which generate about $25,000 of administrative fees each year. So that's the $25,000 of income that she was speaking of. So the EDA several years ago, Ed Pittman's suggestion, very good idea, was to put some money into a CD. He was with Bank of Lancaster at the time, and we got a good deal there. I think it's the 3% interest on that. And you see that currently have a balance in that account of a little over $65,000. There are some withdrawal limits on that. I think you can only withdraw one penalty-free withdrawal each calendar year. I think that's what it's involved with there. But so that's how the funding works for the EDA. And I know that Bruce brought up the possibility of the Board of Supervisors putting some money in the budget. You know, that's possible. You know, I like what Jeff said about you know, doing it without taxpayer funds. But the Board of Supervisors does contribute money to the Broadband Authority in the budget each year. Now, the budget, you know, all the applications for the FY23 budget, that's long gone. The board's actually, with the advertisements in the paper this week for the FY23 budget, which the Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing at April 28th. Then they'll adopt the budget at their May 26th meeting. So the FY23, this budget cycle is pretty much over. But that's something the EDA could consider for future budget cycles if, you know, you'd like the Board of Supervisors to contribute. One other seed I'll plant with you is that the county has gotten American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds from the federal government. We got a little over $1 million last year. Now that's all pretty much spoken for with the broadband initiative with Virginia Power and All Points Broadband. I'm going to ask the board next Thursday night to approve that fiscal agent agreement That's $575,000. So with the other requests that the Board of Supervisors has had over the past several months, that the first round of the ARPA money is pretty much spoken for. But we will be getting another $1 million, the second round of the ARPA funds in August. So I don't know, maybe the EDA wants to put together a proposal and request some ARPA money from the Board of Supervisors. That's something that you could consider.
Okay.
Right
We
now,
would be eligible under the terms of that money?
I believe so. I need to double check on that, but I believe so. A whole lot less restrictions with the ARPA funding than it was with the CARES funding. The CARES funding was very, a lot of rules and regulations with the CARES money, but the ARPA funding is less stringent. You can actually use the ARPA funding for revenue recovery reimbursement, whereas you could not do that with CARES money. So that's one reason why I think, perhaps the EDA could make a request for some ARPA funding for that seed money that Bruce was talking about. So just, this was basically a brainstorming session, so I'm just throwing that out there as well.
Yeah,
So that's
helpful.
I have a question for the two of you that you might know, because I'm learning about I-bonds right now, given that they're inflation adjusted and I didn't know if we were eligible for I-bonds, to buy I-bonds.
I don't know.
It's worth looking at, because they're paying, it's every 6 months it's adjusted. You probably can speak better to this.
Yeah,
It's paying 7% right now, I know.
gosh, I don't know that much about that.
There's a basic margin
Is it
percentage that they pay.
tips? Is it treasury?
It is, they are
Is it
treasury
tip?
bonds.
But they call tips?
I just have been
Okay.
reading about I-bonds on the Treasury website.
Mm-hmm.
But they are paying 7.12% for the rest of this month, and then it'll probably go up in the next 6 months as inflation is increased beyond that 7%.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if, as a nonprofit, we could, because I think that's a funding opportunity for us. It's paying more than 3%.
I don't know the answer to that.
I think a friend of mine just did that when he sold his business, but the restriction was, I think, $1 million was the minimum.
Oh, I think it's, I know individuals can buy the I-bonds.
Okay.
So you might be thinking about the opportunity zones with those, no? Okay, because yes, I think the lowest denomination
We'll
is
look
buying in
into
with $50. So I just don't know if a nonprofit or organization can buy them.
I don't know.
Sure they could. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I can find out. Can I add two things that Don said for Billy's sake? Billy, the things
Yeah.
that threw me for a loop when I first joined this committee was, one, when we're just a conduit for the bonds, there's absolutely no liability on the EDA or the county for the underwriting or the administrative fee on these bonds. There's no credit risk associated with it at all. So people I even got an email from a resident, what in the hell is the EDA under? I said, there's no credit risk on this, we're not doing that. And the second point of that, it does not need to be in our area. You see the three, none of the three are in our area. It is a IRS, bank qualified, tax exempt authority given to IDAs or EDAs. And so I kept trying to figure out the local benefit of these things. I'm like, we're doing a Mariners Museum. How come? But there's no credit risk. So that's important
good,
to
yeah.
know.
Was there another item you wanted?
No,
Was
just
that
those
was
two.
it?
That's
Okay.
not local, and then there's no credit risk.
Perfect, okay. So that goes back to, I think those are tied to the financial status report, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
What's that?
Or do you need, are we done with that?
Yeah, I hit on the balances of the two, so I don't have
Okay.
anything else related to that.
Perfect.
And like I said, the next one is any other business. I'm holding 2 grant requests for your July meeting. And I think we'll be getting a third based on earlier discussion. And there may be others that get submitted as well between now and then. So. One of the ones coming in July, oddly enough, because this has been brought up before, is for a canoe kayak rental business. And
Big.
Fits into the recreational
I know,
committee's objectives.
Because I know when
And jobs.
when Clay Dingledine was here, you all were talking about a complementary business to his, because he's doing yacht sailings, charter sailings,
Yeah.
yeah. Would be a canoe kayak rental, so.
What is the
By the
other
way, I
one?
see him go out of, my house is right at the mouth of Carter's Creek, and I see him going out a couple times a day.
Is
On
it?
the weekends,
that's
at least 2 times a
Yeah,
day.
that's
So
great.
he's busy.
Yes, yeah, I talked about it recently. It was good. What is the other one out of curiosity? A restaurant or?
Uh,
I knew some,
I
well, I
think
was
it was
wondering if
the,
somebody else.
It's,
Is it Teal Marine?
it's marine services, actually.
Okay.
But I think it's electronics. My husband actually used this young man's service, and I had just gotten on this board, so I said, hey, we have this funding. And so if it's Teal Marine, I think.
Teal Marine, yes.
Yeah, he does like boat electronics. So I
Okay.
think he put like a fancy fish finder on our boat, that was what.
Gotcha.
But he does,
He comes to you.
he comes to you, and it was, anyways, my husband was really nice, I didn't know that.
Awesome.
Yeah, look at just one thing. Billy and I spoke yesterday for a long time, and I realized there's a wealth of knowledge of having been here for so long. We talked about Ed Pittman being on the board because Ed had been on for so long, had a great wealth of knowledge. Ronald Davenport, Bill Panel, previous members that, had so much experience. And so I think we've got a great mix here. We've got someone, that's new to the county.
Yeah.
We've got, young business people. We've got a wealth of knowledge over here about, what's going on in the county and how many people he knows. So I think we can really expand what we're doing because of all of the experience that we've had.
I do have a question about when we have multiple grant requests in a meeting, given that we only do this twice a year, what do we do when we're interested in funding them all, but, maybe we can't meet what they're really asking? Do we try to just give them less each
Yeah.
and
Yep.
spread it around?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we'll probably be tackling
I
that
think we're
again.
gonna run into that in July.
Yeah.
Billy, we put a cap at $10,000. Previously, we didn't have a cap, and when broadband came to us 3 years ago, we gave them $30,000 to start the survey that they needed to have to get federal funding and everything. That was a big ask, but also it's probably one of the biggest issues that we have in the county.
Sure.
So we realized, we needed to cap, we couldn't keep, getting those kind of grants or, those kind of requests. So,
I don't know the answer to this, but does publishing that cap make it the de facto request?
Yeah, I wondered that too.
You know?
Yeah, it probably does.
Do we, like if they were coming in thinking of 2,500 and they see 10 as the cap,
Oh,
like,
great.
I'm gonna go ask for 10.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but.
I think you're right, because I think you heard it earlier when they said, should we
Yeah.
Yeah.
ask high?
Right.
But if
And
we
I
don't
think
give some guidelines, it's almost
adjusting the
like,
criteria and coming up with a system, building on what we've already done might be helpful from that perspective. So we take because I do know that as someone who applied previously for one, there was not an amount at that time, and it was very, very stressful to the point where I almost didn't want to apply because I didn't want to look like an idiot.
Right.
So I do think
And
there's
look what it got you.
Chairman
Chairman of the EDA.
Good job.
extra responsibility. So, perfect. Then going back, that's the last thing I wanted to ask about is, I wasn't at the meeting where you guys discussed the criteria and the grading structure that Michael Laws had put together. Do we want to use that for the next meeting is the question I
I
have.
appreciate all the effort he put into that. I'm not a fan of it. I think you try to make what's inherently tons of objective data, but at the end of the day, it's a subjective call.
Sure.
When you try to make it too objective, I don't know. Our problem too was we couldn't get the grading done to evaluate it at the time.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to evaluate it, but it may be just as a tool, but I don't think we should rely on it, is my personal opinion, because I have tons of experience with banks trying to do that for years.
Sure.
And you just can't incorporate all the qualitative stuff to have that be your perfect decision.
Sure.
That's my opinion.
Anybody else have thoughts?
I agree with that 100%. Our discussion when we're talking about the grants is how we evaluate what money we're going to give.
Sure.
And I think it's an easier discussion than to write everything down on paper and come up with a grade and then come up with a
Right.
percentage. I think what Jeff has said is, let's do it the, easy way.
Yeah.
A little bit easier.
I would like to see something a little bit more concrete to make it easier, given that we
Yeah.
can't give everybody $10,000. So if it's, maybe it's, if you're creating so many businesses or jobs or just something high level that makes
Yeah.
it easy.
I think, yeah, his topics address the things that are in our grant request. I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think maybe not put a number to it, but maybe individually, we have grading sheets like A, B, C, or D
Yeah,
on
like
those
how much does
topics.
it
And at
align?
least you're trying to make quasi-objective something. Because I agree with you. I think it needs to fit those criteria that
Yeah.
are in our
The
app.
general criteria that we can refer to
Yeah.
in reviewing it, and then we'll just use those criteria ourselves to
Yeah.
determine what's the best.
Yeah.
That's,
Dawn, from a FOIA perspective, is there any liability in using like sheets of paper? Like, does that become part of an official record if we?
It does become part of the official record. So, yes.
So maybe we just have the criteria and we don't write anything down. And
If
then
we doodle, is that like next?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Doodling.
well, whatever you do for your own notes.
Right.
Right.
You know, that's, that doesn't become part of the record, so.
okay, yeah. So then I think we move forward. Well, do we need to print those off or just let you know to have that we want the criteria written down and printed available to us for the grant request?
Uh,
I don't know the.
I mean, I can include that with the actual application
Yeah.
Okay,
when it's.
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, guys. We went 4 minutes over.
No, you did great.
Before-
2 minutes over.
Before we adjourn, in support of the businesses that we've given money to, there are a dozen Chesapeake donuts over there and their napkins. Please, everybody grab one, and whatever's left over, the crew,
Thank
Sure.
county will get it.
Thanks, Roy.
I mean, you're talking about past recipients. I mean, look at the One Crack Yolk.
I try to go there with
Oh,
That's,
yeah, so
I
good.
mean, they've done really well. I can't think of his name, the man in Lively redoing the old farmer's market
Yeah, Mike
there.
Stevens.
Yeah, Mike Stevens, that building looks great. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's been some very recent success stories.
We need a
Yeah.
place
And
to
what Mike is-
profile our success stories. We
I
need to
love
follow
it.
up on our grants.
Yes.
you know?
And what Mike is trying to do, he's going to all the other businesses in Lively and say, hey, listen, why don't we just spruce up a little bit? So
Oh, good.
the northern entrance to the, Lancaster County is looking better.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
continue to look better.
Wonderful. Well then, can I just call for adjournment? Do we need a motion?
No, well, you just, yeah, I mean, you technically
Stand
should
up.
have.
Let's just go.
But your next meeting is July 28th at 8:30.
Oh, right, that's
28.
different.
And everybody, let's just speak to that now. I know you cannot be there. Bruce, will you be able to join us that day?
I'm looking right now.
Look at that.
I'll include that in the notes, in the meeting notes.
It's
too.
clear,